2 weeks ago on our program, we talked about coneflowers. We showed some varieties of echinaceas that had been hybridized or cross-pollinated with a yellow species to produce some orange-flowered varieties. Well, there are several different echinaceas, and I've got a collection of them here in this vase. The mango meadow bright and the mango orange, these new hybrid echinaceas or coneflowers. But the original purple coneflower, Echinacea purpurea, like we've got right here, is known as purple coneflower. And of course there are hybrids that are white, so it's always sort of confusing when you're talking about the white purple coneflower. So for that reason, we probably should start calling these plants coneflowers. So we have orange coneflowers, purple coneflowers, white coneflowers, and these are the echinaceas. Well, right over here in this vase, I've got another collection of plants that sometimes go by the name of coneflower. And if you look at the center structure of the flower, of course with daisies, we don't have just one flower, we've got a head or a collection of flowers here. We've got the ray flowers and then the disc florets. Well, in these plants that are known as coneflowers, those center flowers are on a cone-like structure, and you can see it easily there. It sort of looks like a cone. We've got those little flowers opening up down here at the base, and a lot of these tight-packed flower or floret buds making up that cone that have yet to open. So you can see they sort of open up from the outside to the middle. Right over here is another example, just a few of the outer florets starting to open up there on the cone. Well, this particular species is the Clasping Leaf coneflower. It's a little annual Rudbeckia native to Oklahoma, and it's called Clasping Leaf because a lot of the leaves sort of wrap around the stem. They sort of clasp it. But a nice little annual coneflower there. Another plant that goes by the name of coneflower is this one. It also goes by the name of Mexican hat plant. This is Ratibida, and you can see the cone clearly here. That cone there in the center does look like a small pine cone or a spruce cone or something like that. None of those have started to open up yet, so it's still very tight. But these Mexican hat coneflowers come in yellow. They also come in a dark brown or burgundy. We've got one right here. And they sort of come in variations of these colors as well. Sometimes we'll have yellow ones with the brown spots on those ray florets. But the Mexican hat, another example of a plant known as a coneflower. These are perennial, however. Well, here we've got a very common plant a lot of you probably recognize. This is the BlackEyed Susan, Rudbeckia hirta, an annual or short-lived perennial. Grows native all around Oklahoma, and it is also sometimes called coneflower because you can see the tall raised cone in the center of this head of flowers. This is the typical Rudbeckia, BlackEyed Susan. Right down here we've got a hybrid known as Indian Summer, and immediately I think what jumps out is the size of the flower. Right here I'll do a comparison with the typical native BlackEyed Susan and then the Indian Summer. Sometimes these flower heads with those ray florets can get upwards to 7 inches across. It is a tetraploid plant. It's got a couple extra sets of chromosomes. It's much sturdier. You can see the size of the stems here. Just a whole different animal in the world of the BlackEyed Susan. But it's also known as a coneflower. Well, perhaps my favorite species of coneflower is this one right back here. This is Rudbeckia maxima, the giant coneflower. And I tell people sometimes that this plant sort of looks like a BlackEyed Susan on steroids. It is a perennial and it can get up to 6 feet tall. But you can definitely see the large cone there in the center, lots of those little florets yet to open up. Gives us a very distinctive cone. Well, I guess we've got a few that are just starting to pop out down there. The giant coneflower is native to the southeastern and south central part of the United States. We actually have these growing in 4 of our southeastern counties, so it's one of our Oklahoma native plants. The flowers are absolutely gorgeous, and then the foliage. And the stems are also very attractive. I mean, just look at this glaucous blue color. So the plant is attractive throughout the growing season. After it's bloomed, we can leave the seed heads on to feed the finches in the fall, or we can cut those back and just enjoy a mound of these blue-green leaves. It's sort of an architectural plant. You can kind of see through the plant. There aren't very many leaves on the upper parts of the stem, so you can use it in a variety of ways in the garden. You can have that color up high, but yet you can still see through the plant and see the other plantings behind it. The giant coneflower grows in low spots in the southeastern part of the United States, but once it's established in the landscape, it's somewhat drought tolerant. So it's a plant that can grow where it's somewhat dry from time to time, and it can also grow in a wet area. The giant coneflower is a favorite of butterflies, and gardeners in England absolutely love this plant. But you know what? They can't hardly keep it alive very long because their summers aren't hot enough. It likes the hot, humid conditions of Oklahoma and is truly a great plant for our gardens. So if we think about the plants in England that grow well in the cool summers, like the lupins, the primulas, and things like that, we can take solace in the fact that they can't grow some of our really heat and humidity loving plants like the giant coneflower, a plant that should be in all gardens, I think, in Oklahoma.